were going to talk. You said something about Drew Brees earlier when we were texting.
Yes. So I got a buddy. His name's Alex Hayes. I know he's listening. Big shout out to him for providing all this information. We were on our way to see the new Star Wars movie, and I guess he was kind of a bit of a sales pitch, trying to convince me that Tom Brady isn't the GOAT. And I said, "What do you mean Tom Brady isn't the GOAT? It's not even discussed anymore. This dude's got what, 6 rings, 6 or 7? Bro, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Like, we play the game of football to get a ring, and this dude has 6 of them. He's got 6 more than the Titans have as an organization." But then we start talking, and I'm gonna let loose. I got him to send me this information afterwards because I was just blown away. But let me get started. In 2010, Drew Brees was, of course, with the Saints. The wild card playoff game versus the Seahawks. The final score was 41-36. The Saints, with 3 minutes left, if they stop the Seahawks, they get a chance to drive down the field, score, and win the game. But that was a large task. You see, on the Seahawks side was Marshawn Lynch. And it just so happens on the very next play, as they're trying to stop Marshawn Lynch and get the ball back, he not only breaks 1 tackle for the first down, he doesn't break 2 tackles for the first down. No, he breaks 7 or 8 tackles for the touchdown. And
I remember that.
What is known today as the best run ever, right? This dude broke 7 or 8 tackles and scored a touchdown. That's 7 or 8 guys, and there's only 11 people on that defense. Unfortunate for Drew Brees. Next up, 2011. Divisional playoff game versus the 49ers. The final score was 36-32. Brees was down 0-17 at one point. He threw his way to a lead with 1 minute and 37 seconds left. But the defense and Greg Williams were not even able to hold them to a field goal. And in 1 minute, 37 seconds, while Drew Brees has the lead, once again, he watches his defense crumble. 2017, the divisional playoff game versus the Vikings.
Yep.
The Saints have a lead with 25 seconds left. I don't know who the Vikings quarterback was at the time, but he threw a bomb.
Case
Keenum down to the 40-yard line. He throws this bomb. The Saints are up by 1 point, and a defender has the opportunity to at least swat the ball so that the Vikings can't come back and win the game. Instead of intercepting the ball and ending the game, instead of swatting the ball to end the game, this guy goes to tackle the receiver and completely misses him, in which case this guy catches the ball and runs it for a touchdown. Saints lose.
Stephon
Diggs. Next up, and probably one of the most controversial. Last year, 2018 NFC Championship versus the Rams. The Saints win. They go to the Super Bowl. The Saints are up. It's I believe 23-20. Could be wrong. But anyways, the Saints throw a pass to get a first down. It's 3rd and 10 on what's near the 10-yard line of the Rams defense. They're about to score. Drew Brees throws the ball in the air, and the receiver, before the ball even gets to him, is hit, and he's hit hard. I believe he's like passed out on the field. Am I right there? And the refs don't even call a flag, and it's blatant. The Saints have to settle for a field goal, which leads to overtime, and the Rams go down the field and score to win the game. If that call would have been called, the Saints had a really good chance of it being, first down and goal at the 4-yard line. And knowing the Saints, they're most likely going to score. And if they don't score, they at least can take time off the clock. But it just so happens that because of that no call, it cost them the game and it cost them the Super Bowl, or the chance of going to the Super Bowl. Couple more stats for you. Is Drew Brees the GOAT? We're talking a lot about things that were unfortunate for him because of his defense. But do we realize the records he holds? He has the most career passing yards, most career passing touchdowns, most career passing completions, highest career completion percentage, most consecutive games with a touchdown pass, highest completion percentage in a game, most touchdown passes in a game. Out of the 10 total 5,000 yard seasons, so there's 10 of them, he has 5 of them, and no one else has more than one. Alex Hayes then goes on to write many, many, many more. You could write a book about all the records he has broken, but it's always nice to name a few. Kind of reminds me of the end of Luke there. But seriously, so the basic argument is it's not just a quarterback who wins a Super Bowl. It takes a defense, it takes a special teams, it takes a great head coach. Tom Brady had that. Tom Brady has that. Drew Brees has never had it. What do y'all think? Is Drew Brees the secret GOAT? Is there any conversation in which he is mentioned as one of the greatest of all time?
He should be. Here's what I'll say real quick, though. That whole thing, that whole sad sob story you went through with his defense being trash for the first 5 minutes or however long that was, that whole thing is not even an argument. Here's why. In each of those games, why is the other team within a possession of a score at the end of the game?
Reach.
Drew Brees could have put it away if he's so great, if he threw a couple more touchdowns or whatever. So that whole line of argumentation, in my opinion, though it is sad, and though I heard the world's smallest violin playing a sad, sad song for poor Drew Brees, it really doesn't really mean anything. I am for saying, or at least arguing for Drew Brees being the GOAT. I really am. Because you guys know me. Every time we have this conversation, I talk about the same thing. If you want to find out who the best player is, what do you look at? In my opinion, you don't look at wins and losses. You don't look at rings. You don't look at ships. You look at personal statistics. That's part of why those are there. Like, how are you going to tell me that one quarterback's better than another if this is a team sport just because his team won more games when this other quarterback has better stats? Like, that's what it's about. You throw more touchdowns, you throw more completions, everything. Like, if we're talking about the best quarterback, I think that has to be in there. And since Drew Brees seems like he's the king on the throne, I mean, I'm not willing to crown him yet. We're going to see how these things pan out. He might have a couple more years left. So does Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, he at least should be in the discussion more than he is. I even think, in some ways, he has the edge over Peyton Manning. But I will say this. Peyton Manning played less years in the league than Drew Brees or Tom Brady. So when Peyton Manning got to his touchdown record, he did it with fewer games than Drew Brees, and I think that should be mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I'm not a stat guy. I mean, stats are good to a certain point, but like you can hold on to stats at the expense of your team. Like I can take a sack because I don't want to throw an incomplete pass to the sidelines, right? And I know that's an exaggeration, but seriously, you can hold on to stats so much that it's at the expense of your team. Whereas maybe Drew Brees, when he sees that there's only 5 in the box because they're all guarding the pass, he wants to pad his stats instead of audibling to a run. Whereas Tom Brady wants to win. Tom Brady's going to audible to a run. So I don't know. Stats, they say something, but they don't say everything, in my opinion.
I didn't know you were such a fan of Tom Brady, first off. Secondly, I do think that Drew Brees is definitely in the conversation. Excuse me. He's in the conversation of one of the greatest of all times. Like, I think just anytime you try to name the greatest, like, that's so difficult to do because there's so many things to take into consideration. But it's always great conversation. And I do think, though, that Drew Brees he's absolutely had a great career and is a great quarterback. No doubt about it. No questions asked.
And definitely some bad luck with some no calls and Marshawn Lynch. I mean, and then a corner who misses a tackle. You know, you hate to see it, but there's, like Forrest said, there's probably a sob story for every single quarterback in the league. So,
yeah, I mean, if they were up by 17 instead of by 3, that would have never happened. That's all I'm saying. Like, there's always some workaround for that. That just to me is kind of like, okay, you got a bad break. If you're the GOAT, you overcome. And Drew Brees obviously has overcome a lot. He's like 5 feet even and playing in the NFL, so we got to give him his due. But let's talk about the playoff picture a